Howdy, this is Bart of Highway Blues Guitar, and I'm here in my workshop, and I am going to show you today how to make a pickup just with some home tools. This one here I bought from a fellow named Elmer in Austria, and then I broke one of his because the wires are very fragile and not his fault. And so I started making my own pattern after him. And he had a video on how to do it, and some other people have. But their tools are a little more sophisticated than what you or I might have. And so I'm going to show you how to make one of those. This is what we're talking about here. Okay. And so what you're going to need is something that is magnetic, or that a magnet will stick to. Okay, let's see. So this is a pickle jar lid, and then I've got some of these tiny neodymium magnets. These are 1 millimeter thick. Let me separate them. There's a whole stack of them. 1 millimeter thick, and they're 8 millimeters across. Okay, and so they're pretty strong. This is a whole stack of them. You'll need some tin snips to cut this out. So here we go. I'm going to start cutting. I'm going to cut a square. Oops. Okay, so now I've got this piece right here, and I'm going to take a file. I'm going to file the rough edges off. Okay, and next I'm going to put the magnets on here. So and you want the magnets stuck all the same way, so all the same polarity. Because this is going to be for a 3-string guitar, I will put 3 on there. And try to get them equally spaced. Okay. And then I'm going to put some tape on here around the edges, and also I'm going to put some super glue on here. Well, I messed up on this. This is just a little bit too small, so I've got a bean can lid here, and I'm going to cut this out into a square. And I'll measure with this to make sure I get it a little bit bigger. That's better. I'll give you some dimensions here. This is about 1 and a half, by 1 5/8", something like that. And then I'll put these magnets onto here. You can pick what side that you want if this is going to show. I'm not going to put this in a frame, so it doesn't really matter what side that I want to put the magnets on. And now I'm just going to center them. And then I'm going to put a little bit of super glue to hold the magnets in place. And then the next thing I will do, oops, sticking myself to it, is to pad this with some tape. Before I put tape on this, you see I've got the magnets glued on there. I'm going to file some of the sharp edges off. And then I just have some Scotch tape. Remember, you're wanting this to be very thin, so any excess tape you want to cut off. Okay, so now I've got this, all right. And then I'm going to need to solder, I'm going to need to super glue some little leads like this on here. And so, I don't know if you can see that I've got the black and the red stripped just a little bit, and that I just am going to super glue that down like that, okay? So I'll get some wire and I'll cut it and strip it. And this is 20 gauge wire. I strip both sides. And I found out the hard way that if I didn't super glue this wire on, that just in the slight amount of force in installing the pickup, it would tug on the pickup wire, and this wire here is, I don't even know if you can see that, but it's thinner than your hair. This was a pound spool and it was 10 miles long. It is, let's see, I got it from Remington on Amazon. I'll put a link as far as what kind of wire that is. I found it's easiest when you glue this on to just glue one wire at a time. So I'm just got this like this, and I'm just going to hold that down. And I've already got some super glue on the computer from trying to show you this. I'll hold it with my needle nose here because I don't want to glue my fingers down. Challenging because I've got the magnets on there. Okay, so I've got that, and now I'm just going to put a little drop of glue on there. Less is better. And just like that. Now I'll put the red on, and I'm going to have it go opposite. So this is where I'm going to solder on the start of the wire, and here's where I'm going to solder on the end of the wire. There. Okay. And you don't really want it to hang out over the edge. Like I've got this too long, and so I will probably cut that back. Alright, so now I've got this very thin wire, and I'm going to wrap it around the black exposed wire in prep for soldering it. Okay, so now I've got that wrapped around a bit. And this kind of pickup wire, the soldering of it, will burn off the insulation. But I got a little too much on there, so I'm going to try to take that off. Okay, so, alright, so finally, I've got, let's see, you can see this very thin wire, and it's soldered on right here to the black lead, and both of these are glued on to this can lid, and they are in line with these neodymium magnets. Alright, so we're going to start winding this around. Now I'm going to put this in a drill, and I'm going to bend these leads over out of the way, and then I'm going to start winding this around by hand a little bit. Okay, so it's going the direction I want. And now I've got a couple little wooden paddles that I've got some foam rubber glued on, and I'm going to use these to grab this paddle, and then I'm going to put it in my drill. I'm going to chuck that bad boy in. So it's like that. Okay? And it's really important that this spool of wire spools off like this, not like this. It doesn't have enough tensile strength to unwind it like this, so it's got to spool it off like a fishing reel. So I'm going to get it started, and then I'll stop it. And what I don't want is for it to slide off. And so I'll take just a little bit of wood glue, and I'll just smear a little of that on, particularly on the edges. So I'll just go like this, just so it grips it a little bit. And then we'll go back to winding. And I'll stop and check it now and then and make sure that it's not getting all over my magnets or on top of any of the little leads. It's still looking pretty good. I just broke it. Well, I could undo all of this, or I could take and solder on a new piece. And so that's what I'm going to do. Dang it. Alright, so I soldered the wires back together. You can see that little black wire that then is wrapped around, and it's got the hair-like wire, the pickup wire on there. And now I'm going to finish winding this, and then I'll come back to showing you how to flip it over to make it a true humbucker. Alright, I've got my earmuffs on because the drill was a little loud. You can see about how much wire I've wound on there. And then I'm going to switch this over and clamp it in this side and still continue in the same direction but on the drill. But by doing it in the same direction, it actually is the opposite direction for how these are wound. And that's what you want, because with a humbucker, the idea is that with the coils wound in the opposite direction, and I'm bending the leads over, then it's supposed to help cancel out the hum. So I'll start this in the direction I want it. I'll add a little bit of glue just to kind of give it some grip so it doesn't slide off. And I wind up putting the glue on a couple times because otherwise the coils tend to wander off of there. And I've bent the wires over to this side now, so that the idea is we don't want them getting captured, the leads. And I used to have the leads on full length, but then I found that they just got in the way, and so it was easier for me to add wire onto this later. So now I'll put this back in the drill, and then I'll continue winding. Here we have the other set of the coils on, and now I'll take this very end of the wire, and it's going to get very gently wrapped around the red lead, and then I'll solder that one. Before I go any further, I want to test and see if I've got my solder joints correct. So I've got my ohm meter here set on X1K, or 1000 ohms. Oops. And often my red one there, sometimes I don't get enough solder on it, or don't melt the insulation on the wire, and so sometimes I've had to resolder them. Let's see. So can you see that? It's about 2000 ohms there. See the needle move? Okay, so everything looks good. Even though I broke the wire halfway through. I found out why that happened was that when I was trying to demonstrate soldering, a little solder dropped on my spool and it snagged the wire. Okay, so now that I've got this the way I want it, I'm going to gently fold this lead down, and boy, I've broken a lot of them doing this. And then I will get some other wire. In this case, I've got some already cut lengths. And I'm pulling the ground strands out, and I'll twist them up. Plug my soldering iron in. And I'll just twist these two together, solder them. I don't know if you can see this. Yeah. And then I'll fold this over. Okay, so we're good for soldering. Now I'm going to need to put some tape to hold this in place. And if I've got some frames that I had cut out, and if I was going to use that on here, then I would hot glue this into the frame. But this is a little bigger, and I'm actually just going to use a piece of flashing, aluminum flashing, to make a pickup guard for it. And so now I'm just going to, so I can just tape this down, and I just need to remember that where my magnets are, because if I had that, there's a magnet for every string, and if I had it the opposite way, then the strings, then only the center string would be lined up. So I'm going to put some tape on this just to keep these wires from pulling on the little pickup wire, and then I'll show you what I've got after. I'm just making a pickup guard out of a piece of flashing, and I've just bent it in a vise, 2 bends, and then I'll measure this against where the pickup's going to go, and then I need to bend it right there. Pretty easy to do. Okay, and then I'll bend it back again. Yep, that'll work. And you want to take off any of the real sharp edges, because you're going to be jamming away with this thing, and you don't want it to cut you. And then I'll drill 4 little holes for some screws. And then how I'll attach this into here is I'll just put a little bit of hot glue right down there and set that in. And I might take I'll take some pencil just to remember that where those magnets are, is right like that, because you can see that if I set it this way, then all those magnets are going to be lined up with one string, and that this is the way it's got to go. Alright, we'll check it out here in a minute. Okay, so here's a test. I have just taped the leads to the guitar wire that's going to the jack, and then I've just taped this to an existing guitar. It's got a lace aluminum pickup right here, but you can see that that's not plugged in. Where's the... There it is, right there. That's not plugged in. Okay, and just for a comparison, it's great that it works. It's kind of fun to show you this. I'm going to disconnect this and connect it to the lace. So, we're on the lace one. But for just a couple bucks and a little bit of time, I've got something that sounds pretty good. This pickup is awesome. I love it, but it is comparable to my DIY knockoff Flatpup. This is wire from pickups that I've broken. So don't be discouraged if you break it. This wire has all been sacrificed to the pickup gods of sound. I saved it because I thought it would be kind of fun, since I'm losing some of my hair, that maybe I could make a wig, you know. What do you think? Or do you think I should just stick to building pickups and guitars and not make wigs out of this? But could be a cool look. What do you think?